Hi, I'm Ann V. Brady, and I'll be reading an excerpt from my book, A New Beginning, the story of my adoption, life, and service. Illustrated by Eric C. Brady. One morning, Mike woke up with his eyes swollen shut. I dressed myself and him and took him to the ER on post. I told the doctor that he was allergic to mosquitoes and asked that he be given Benadryl. The doctor looked at him and said, "He's fine." I took him to daycare and went to work. Around lunchtime, I received a phone call from Charlotte. She said Mike's eyes had swollen up after his nap, so I picked him up and took him to the ER. I explained again about us being there earlier and that his eyes were swollen again. I demanded that they give him Benadryl. This time they listened and did as I asked. Mike didn't have any problems after that. Every year, NCOs were expected to attend with their spouse or by themselves a Christmas dinner. It was optional, but it looked better if you attended. It was a formal event. NCOs were expected to wear their dress blues or their formal blues to the dinner. Guests were to wear a dress or a suit. One year, one year, NCOs were given the option of wearing their uniform or civilian clothes. Below are pictures of Ed and me at the Christmas dinner. They had professional photographers take pictures for those that wanted pictures. The first picture is of me sitting down in my dress blues with Ed in his standing beside me and a little bit behind in his suit. And the next picture is with of me in my civilian clothes. I'm wearing a black sequined halter type evening gown, rhinestones, black with rhinestones. And Ed is wearing his glasses, and he looks like Teddy Roosevelt when he was younger. But anyway, he's sitting and I'm standing with my hand on his chest. We look very sharp. And both of us had sandy brown or red hair. I received TDY orders for ANOC, and I was called by the Military Education Department on post. Before I went to the course, I had to take a literacy test. The test consisted of reading comprehension, vocabulary, and grammar. The woman who graded my test was ecstatic about my test results. I only got one question wrong. She said that most of the soldiers couldn't pass the test. I explained that I was a college graduate and that's why I did so well on the test. I received a list of items that I must bring with me to the school. The school was interesting. We had to attend leadership classes and we had to write our own lesson plans on a subject and give a lecture on it. We also had to practice marching. We took turns giving commands as we marched. When we were in formation, the cadre would call cadence. We answered the cadence less than enthusiastically. We were staff sergeants, not basic trainees. The classrooms were not cooled, so some staff sergeants would sit by a column and lean back and sleep with their eyes open. Going out in the field was fun and hard. One night we were equipped with Mars equipment, and we combined with a BNOC class to do a joint exercise. It was us against them. The problem with the equipment was that some soldiers could kill but not be killed. Other soldiers couldn't kill, but they could be killed. We also had a problem with one sergeant from the BNOC class when he captured one of our classmates and he started beating on him. He got into trouble. We were just supposed to capture the members of the opposing team and keep them as prisoners until the end of the exercise. We assembled our own tents. There was no problem with fraternization as we were all professionals. We wanted to graduate, so we would be promoted to sergeant first class. I graduated 6 December 1991. Below is a picture of my diploma. When I graduated from ANOC, I returned to work, to work at DCIS. When I got home, Ed told me that while I was gone, the first sergeant called him about 2 in the morning. The first sergeant was looking for me. He was having a health and welfare inspection of the barracks and wanted me to join the inspection. Ed reminded him that I was an ANOC and couldn't help. The first sergeant had forgotten I was in school. Ed found out later that there were male soldiers in female rooms jumping out of windows. They found drugs in some rooms. Some were illegal, some expired, some were someone else's prescription. They found stereos and other items stolen from cars in the barracks parking lot. I made an appointment with an orthopedic doctor about my left knee. I wanted to ask if the doctor could replace the ACL in my left knee to help stabilize my knee. The doctor told me I was too old. Another doctor later explained that what he meant was the ACL had been missing too long from my knee. She said they would hurt my knee more than help it. I went every year to the optometrist to have my eyes checked. Doctors that saw me looked at my eyes and got really excited. He said, "I've never seen this before." I said, "What's wrong?" He told me that nothing was wrong and not to worry. He said he needn't know the doctors see this. Of course I was worried. I figured out there was something seriously wrong with my eyes. Turned out he was as excited as he had never seen floaters in the eyes before. One night when I pulled CQ, I decided I would eat in the hospital cafeteria instead of going home to eat. The meal was great. I would later come to regret that decision. Several days later, we were watching the news when the newscaster had breaking news. They announced that anyone eating in the hospital cafeteria in Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center during certain days would have to get a hepatitis B immunoglobulin G shot. I had CQ and ate in the hospital cafeteria on one of those days. It seems one of the food staff had hepatitis A. They announced dates and times at the Outpost movie theater. I went the next working day to the movie theater to get my shot. Everyone stood in line. When we were called, we filled out a form. Then we went with a nurse behind a curtain. This was because we had to get the IgG shot in the butt. It was a viscous solution that is hard to inject and burns as it slowly enters the body. A friend of ours had told Ed about a dog that was at the pound and needed to be adopted or he would be put to sleep. That's how we got our second beagle. Our friend named the dog Peanut. We didn't change the name because Eminem and Peanut just went together. While Eminem was getting older and just was happy to take it easy, Peanut would take off if the gate was left open. Peanut didn't run away unless chased. Peanut would go around the duplexes on post and visit other dogs. In 1993, the Pope held World Youth Day in Denver, Colorado. The general of Fitzsimmons AMC invited some of the youth to camp out on post. They were given the area by the AV's Post Exchange, PX. We tried to make sure that anyone that entered our yard kept the gate closed. Unfortunately, one morning the gate was left open and Peanut took off. The boys had already eaten, and I was in my white uniform ready for work. It had rained the previous evening, and the ground was muddy. The boys and I took off chasing after Peanut, calling his name. We chased him through the housing area, through the youth camp, on post, through mud and trees. We were finally able to grab Peanut's collar and haul him off to the backyard as he struggled to get free. I closed the gate so that he wouldn't get loose again. I had to change clothes and shoes. I was lucky to get to the boys to daycare and get to work on time. I was called by the first sergeant for the next health and welfare check. We had a briefing about the health and welfare check in the first sergeant's office. The female staff sergeants took the female barracks and the males took the male barracks. As we were approaching the first barracks, I saw a female naked and coming out of her room to iron a uniform in the day room. The other staff sergeants were right behind me. She saw us and ran back into her room. We knocked and told her to open up. She opened the door, closed, and we explained that we were performing a health and welfare check. We told her that she had to come out into the day room so we could inspect her room. One staff sergeant stayed with her while we inspected her room. They opened her locker and searched it for drugs or alcohol. No alcohol was allowed in the barracks because the barracks housed students for the biomedical school and the optometry school. After the health and welfare inspection of the barracks, we were debriefed by the first sergeant in his office. I helped with teaching CTT. I taught identifying friendly and threat aircraft and vehicles. The aircraft were helicopters and planes. The vehicles were types of tanks and APC carriers. I was hoping to get promoted to Sergeant First Class, SFC. Our NCOIC of DCIS was given orders to deploy to South Korea. She wasn't thrilled. She decided that I would be the interim NCOIC for DCIS. I was taking leave at the same time she had decided to train me. I had put in for leave months before. She was mad at me and picked another staff sergeant to be her protege. When it was time for the promotion board, I went to get my photo for the promotion board. Below is a picture of me, of my promotion picture that I submitted with my application for the promotion board. And I'm going to end it there. And I hope everybody has a great Tuesday and have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.